We were in the bathroom when my mother grabbed me. Instead of heading back to our seats, we headed for the exit. The brother from the podium was reminding everyone to double-check their instructions. We went into our car, and I remember my mother saying a prayer, asking Jehovah to guide and protect us during these exciting yet terrifying times. I was confused as to why we were leaving, since I knew the meeting wasn't over, but then I noticed that we weren't going home. I didn't know where we were going. I wanted to ask Mom where we were going, but I had an overwhelming urge to just be quiet and watch and listen. We all met at a family's house. The conversation was very excited. It became obvious that we were now on the run. But how can people be so happy about this? While listening, I found out that the family staying at the home were paying rent, but their landlord was pocketing the rent and not paying the mortgage on the house. He was living it up on their rent. The family had to have all of their bills and mail sent to a post office box. The landlord ripping off this family turned out to be a blessing from Jehovah, because now there was no record of them being here, so the authorities won't come to this location when they begin searching for the brothers and sisters at their homes. Right then I couldn't hold it in any longer. There was a question I had to know. What about our go bags? Weren't we supposed to have those for this time? How come we can't go home and get them? Everyone in the room stopped and looked at me, eyes as wide as saucers. And then spontaneously my mother and several other sisters started crying. A huge commotion broke out over the room. Lots of tears and people hugging me. I was very confused. For several days we stayed there, sleeping wherever we could. We stayed glued to the news, occasionally taking a break to look at videos that were downloaded from jw.org before it was shut down. Our favorite was Walk by Faith and Not by Sight. Caleb and Sophia movies were played in the kids' room, along with other videos geared toward young ones. Days seemed to zoom by. It seemed like the world was finally coming together. The UN stepped in and somehow convinced everyone to stop fighting each other and fight a common enemy: religion. Everyone's religious buildings were seized under some pretense. All religious meetings were banned. Most of the religions folded, their members signing away any affiliation with their denomination and getting back to their lives. The ones that resisted were quickly put down as domestic terrorists. This was repeated all over the world with varying levels of brutality. There was also talk of a Jehovah's Witness mole in the government. Apparently, we had advanced warning that this was going to happen, and we were able to scatter before the government could round us up and deal with us. Due to our known political neutrality and refusal to do anything radical, they choose to concentrate their efforts on more aggressive and numerous religions, leaving us alone for a while. We wondered if the governing body was warned by an informant, or did we get angelic warning? After all, the miracles had started. You see, David, I had a mental condition where I couldn't speak or process information correctly. That's why I can't remember anything before the Great Tribulation. I'm sure you've heard tons of stories about the miracles of the Great Tribulation, Jehovah strengthening his people for what's to come. Of course, only those who followed instruction given from the brothers benefited. The ones that didn't follow instructions, some of them made it through, but they had a much rougher time than they should have. We were well taken care of. A sister named Jacqueline Spencer kept coming to the home with a trunk full of food. I loved to hear her talk. Her accent was so endearing. Speaking of which, I haven't heard the story of how she found us or where she got the food from. David, after this, you and me, we're going to her house and we're going to get that story out of her, even if we have to tie her down. Michelle chuckled, and David got a wide grin on his face. Deal, he said. Well, the government's finished off religion and seemed to forget about us. That's when the goons busted the door down.